And so let's begin today's session. And so I welcome everyone to the Question a Week invited talk series. Uh, Essentially, the first warmest welcome is to Shambhavi Dandekar, of course. And she's an international artist of great repute in the field of Kathak Nritya. She is a guru herself, and she has a large army of students as well as fans all over the world today. So there is no need for any further introduction from my side. We'll have a formal one coming. First, my duty now is to, first of all, with Shambhavi's permission, I will first pay obeisance to her guru, Manisha Tai. First is like, I would just like to do my namaskar to her. She is her Nritya Guru, her mother, and I will also like to remember her Tal Guru, Tal Yogi, Pandit Sureshji, and basically these two have kind of honed her right from beginning. So we will do that. And so welcome everybody. This invited talk series is just like, I would just like to say one sentence. It's an experiment of a different kind, where we would want to merge the gap, or like to close the gap between the so-called spiritualists and non-spiritualists, or the generalists and the specialists. So who are both going towards the same objective. And so we would like this boundary to merge. This is the simple objective of this invited talk series, and we will see how it comes about as we progress through the talks and the series. So with this, I complete the kind of invitation to everybody. I welcome everybody once again. And now I pass on the mic to Aditya, who will be introducing the Question a Week forum to all of us. Aditya.
Hello. So, QAW Question a Week Forum invites uncompromising self-inquiry. Each week, we discuss and share experiences about QAW verticals or horizontals, answered in your own words to gain clarity that reshapes life. So, what are the pillars of QAW? One, the fictitious I to PVM. Return from the inherited persona to the physical, vital, mental integration, which is the true unit of existence. Two, Sauskruti and identity, Vyaktitva. Personal clarity linked with civilizational strength, identity as unique expression aligned with the civilizational state of Bharat and its inheritance. And finally, pain navigation to Samatva and then into action. Pain as the engine of growth, equanimity leading to evolution-centric action. What QAW provides? One, a reconnecting framework that links the modern Bharatiya with the timeless and crucially evolutionary flow of knowledge and power. Two, an integrated philosophy platform with living verticals such as Utsav rhythms, evolution thought streams, Andaman cellular jail narratives, inspired poetic forms, cross-questioning, debates, and modern evidence across chronology, linguistics, navigation, geopolitics, geoeconomics, and technology, and a proposal for 100 Bharatiya civilizational flashpoint memorials of international standard. Third, a modern execution framework of self-mastery, materials and guidelines to help Bharatiyas weather the identity struggle, and finally, the commitment to language with ongoing work in Marathi, Malayalam, and Hindi. How the forum works: we discuss one topic a week and you answer from your lived experience. Your words only, clarity over jargon, and from self to civilization, which is to map the PVM to your identity and finally into action. The outcome of the forum is to realize identity, befriend pain, and act for evolution, aligning personal mastery with the timeless arc of Sauskruti. These invited talks have twofold objective. One, to observe the derived general principles of QAW in the manifestation, Vidya, of the invited specialist, and to create a platform for our respected specialists to express the generality of philosophy, spirituality, and civilization, which is hidden deep in their Vidya. Now, I invite Anuradha to introduce our esteemed guest.
Hello. Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome. It's a privilege today to introduce an artist, teacher, and cultural leader whose work has shaped Kathak across continents, Shambhavi Dandekar, whom her students lovingly called Shambhavi Tai. I had the chance to learn Kathak for a few years from one of her students, Meenal Chakradev. That experience gave me a glimpse of how Shambhavi Tai's teachings and vision reach far beyond her own classroom. Shambhavi Tai is a renowned Kathak dancer, choreographer, and teacher, and founder and artistic director of Shambhavi's International School of Kathak in San Francisco Bay Area. Her school is unique. It's a hub for adult learners, both in person and online, proving that it's never too late to begin a journey in classical dance. Her story begins in Pune, where she trained under her mother, the legendary Pandita Manisha Thathe, and later under the tabla maestro Tal Yogi Pandit Suresh Talwalkar, who shaped her deep understanding of rhythm and lay. That grounding gave her dance a rare balance of precision, grace, and musicality. Over the past 3 decades, she has performed in more than 120 cities across 13 countries from India to Europe to US, enchanting audiences everywhere. The New York Times once described her spins as light as a breeze and her joy on stage as a joy to behold. She has been honored with awards like P.L. Deshpande Youth Award, Nritya Ratna, Bharat Shri, Shingar Mani, and many others. And in 2023, she was named one of the 101 social change makers of Silicon Valley, recognizing her role as a cultural bridge. But what stands out most in is her passion for teaching. Through SISC, founded in 2010, she has pioneered new models of learning, both in person training to online and distance learning programs, ensuring that even adults new to Kathak can begin their journey with confidence. Many of her disciples now carry her vision forward as performers, teachers, and cultural ambassadors in their own light. At her core, Shambhavitai is both a guardian of tradition and an innovator shaping the future. Through her, Kathak becomes more than a performance. It becomes a journey of devotion, discipline, and joy. So today, we get to hear directly from her, her story, her reflections, and the wisdom she has gathered through a lifetime in dance. Please join me in welcoming the Kathak exponent, performer, teacher, choreographer, and cultural ambassador, Shambhavi Tai. Handing it over back to Anant.
So, right. So, kind of, we begin today, and although the questions might appear a little bit technical or kind of serious, they're really not. For people who take life seriously, they are not serious when they do it. We can say it that way. So, I'm pretty sure when Shambhavi answers or tells us, rather, answers is not the real thing. When she tells us about these things, it's going to come from our experience. So I'm pretty sure it will not appear heavy for us. Just the questions may appear technical, so please bear with us. Wording has to be slightly rigid so that we might extract the exact knowledge and try to learn from it. So this is the objective. So we begin. It's kind of, I have a few questions with me here, and I would just pose them to Shambhavi one by one. And she can choose whether to answer part of it or wholly, and she may freely give examples and she may give samples of various media as and when she pleases. So free choices are. So we begin. So the first is what we would like to know from Shambhavi is what is exactly the Vedic Sanatan or Abhijaat Kala, and how is it different from just any other forms of classical arts? So, please.
Namaste, everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank Anant and other members of the forum for thinking of inviting me here to share my thoughts with you all. It is not a usual topic on which artists keep giving speeches left and right. It's much more profound than that, and that has given me a chance to introspect, to look at myself and my journey and my guru's teachings from a profound perspective. And that's why many thanks to all the members of this forum for inviting me here today. As Aditya mentioned in his introduction, I'm going to follow the same route. It's going to be experience over jargon. So I am not really going to repeat things that are already mentioned online or in books. Of course, I'll be kind of holding their hand, but not going by them. My focus will be more on sharing my own experiences with you along this wonderful journey that I have had, first as a student artist, then as a pre-professional level artist, and then as a professional teacher, choreographer, and performer in the field of Kathak. First of all, well, my request to you all, those of you who can turn their camera on, please do so. So it'll give me a kind of sense of interaction. It'll be better to see faces rather than just seeing the initials on screen, P, M, G, and so on and so forth. Thank you so much. Before I actually start answering Anand's first question, I would also like to mention that many of my family members have joined today. Anant has already mentioned that my guru Manisha Tai, who is also my mother, she is also joined us. And I'm really thankful and in awe with her for how she makes it a point to join, always be present for my sessions. Just another request to everyone to please stay muted. Anant, I also wanted to know that we are going to take up question answers only in the end, right?
Correct.
Or do you want it to be more spontaneous and in and out?
We'll do it at the end, Shambhavi.
At
Or
the
if
end,
you
okay. All
prefer
right.
in the middle, we can do it, but then it might just break the flow of that logic that
Yeah,
you're presenting. So that was the only reason.
that's correct. So, first question, Anant, and just as I jokingly said to you yesterday that my studies, I'm trying to study hard to appear for this exam. So, what is Abhijaat Kala? So, Abhijaat Kala and classical arts are um, two sides of the same coin. So, what we call Abhijaat Kala in the Sanskrit or Indic terminology, that is exactly the same as classical arts in the Western connotation. Let's first see what is the exact meaning of these terms. So, while explaining the term kala, the Sanskrit explanation is kam lati ya sa kala, meaning what brings us happiness and satisfaction and a sense of fulfillment is kala. Kam meaning ananda. The word kam means ananda. So the art which brings us ananda is kala. That is the word to word translation of the term kala. Now, what is Abhijat? Abhijat, again, another Sanskrit term, means anything that is classic, excellent, superior, or noble. But these are just the word to word translations of the term. We are going to go ahead and check into details of how these various adjectives apply to classical arts and how we can find deeper meaning through them. So when we talk about classical arts, they are generally divided in three categories. One is performing arts, the other is literary arts, and the third is fine arts. So under performing arts fall various art forms like classical dance, classical music, or even theater, theatrical plays and performances. Under literary arts fall literature, poetry, and their performances. And under fine arts, we find sculpture, painting, drawing, craft, etc. Now, let's see what is the difference between classical arts, folk arts, and popular arts. And all this is in the effort to understand classical arts or Abhijaat kalas better. So, when we talk about classical arts, the first thing that comes to our mind is the long period of time that we take to master that particular art form. And as against that, when we talk about folk arts like folk music or folk dances, we know that they are cultural, they are spontaneous, we learn them, people learn them by just looking at their fathers and uncles and mothers and how they dance in the community. So there isn't a particular set of regimented routine that you have to learn. It's more on the spontaneous side. And on the other hand, if we look at popular arts, and a very good example of popular arts would be the Instagram reels that are all around us everywhere. But we know that those trends are very short lived. You know, the cup songs that came and went, then those Rube Goldman machines that people created over the in their room, and then those domino effect reels that we saw. There are plenty examples around us, and the trend comes and goes. It's like a wave which reaches the shore and then recedes back into the ocean. So popular arts are very short-lived. Classical dance and music, well, this area does not need many examples because we all are well versed with it. We have various classical forms of India. We have Hindustani music, we have Carnatic music, we have sitar, sarod, sarangi, tabla, pakhavaj, so many instruments which give us a rich cultural and musical tradition with which classical art and music grows. In classical arts, the training has a system, and the training regimen has evolved over generations. So it's not like what my forefathers taught me, I'm going to pass it on to my disciples. But there is a lot of contemplation and evolution involved in classical arts as well. And that busts the first myth that classical arts are frozen in time. No, they are not. Because if they were frozen in time, they would have been extinct by now. Our classical arts at least have a documented history of 2000 years. Because the first musical treatise, Natya Shastra, was written at least 2000 years ago. And I'm going to talk about it in the course of time. So training in classical arts is very systematic. It evolves over time, and it also evolves with experience of one generation, which the next generation benefits from. But on the other hand, if we look at folk dances like Koli or Bhangra or Garba, we all know that they evolved as a way of expression for the community to come together, gather together, and celebrate something. It could be just a good hunting season that they had back in the days, or it could be a birth of a child in the community, or it could be a marriage, anything like that. And every such occasion is a great opportunity for the members of the community to come together, sing and dance together, and strengthen the bond that they have within the community. So it is mainly passed down generation after generation, but very differently than classical arts. And on the other hand, popular arts are very spontaneous, contemplative. They are not contemplative. They are more like, you know, like a bubble comes up on a surface and bursts, but it also creates an impact. Like popular arts, although however short lived, they have an impact on the society. And if not anything else, what they bring to the society is utsaha, a sense of enthusiasm, especially in the younger community. Now, classical arts have a specific purpose, and that purpose is reflecting life, reflecting upon life and mirroring life. So, um, any classical art in its abstract or concrete form always tries to grab or capture different life experiences and bring them into the art. And that's why we say that kala or art is the mirror of life. And I think this is the most important objective of any art. And classical arts, they stand true to the test to a T. In folk dance, though, only that exuberance, that expression of joy, and that sense of belonging is the only thing to look forward to. There isn't a deeper meaning to the performance, and also in folk dances or folk music. Now we call it performance because we see it being presented on proscenium stage as well. But back in the days when it was actually evolving, it was more in the temple courtyard or a home courtyard where just people just gathered and danced informally. So this is how I compare classical arts, folk arts, and popular arts. And by comparison, I think to me at least, it's a good way of finding out more pinpointed information about something if we compare that particular thing to a few others. Now, in classical arts, as my guru Pandit Suresh Talwalkarji explains beautifully, he says that classical arts have four parameters. And I think this is exactly where the Abhijatata comes into picture. So the parameters are Shastra, Tantra, Vidya, and Kala. So how a person in training evolves over time and stands the test of um, the training to become a full-fledged artist. This is the journey. Shastra, Tantra, Vidya, and Kala. By Shastra, we mean theory, something that is tried and tested by our forefathers and they have documented it somewhere. It could be in writing or it could also be a verbal tradition. So that is Shastra. Then comes Tantra. Tantra is technique, what we learn from our gurus. Because without technique, we won't be able to express. Technique to an artist is like language to any person. So with technique, we master the language through which classical arts are presented. After mastering the technique comes the application of knowledge. Because in the course of learning, we don't just master technique, but we also gain knowledge from it through the experiences and through, of course, your guru's experiences as well. So that is knowledge, and knowledge gives a beautiful shape to the technique and a beautiful personality to the technique that an artist has learned. But finally, all this has to culminate at a level of kala. And what is kala? Kala is self-expression. So whatever I have learned from my gurus, I'm going to make it my own, and I'm going to present it as my own. Although whatever I present has a history of thousands of years, at this moment, at this instant, it is my own. And that expression is kala. So these four categories or parameters of addressing classical arts give you a wonderful example of how the progression is from one stage to the other. And this is exactly what sets Abhijaat kalas or classical arts aside from other types of arts. Now, I'm just going to give you one more parameter. To me, it is the best parameter to have if you have to decide Abhijat Kalas, if you have to differentiate between the forms of arts or to identify the Abhijatata or classicism of an art form. I just said that art has to has to be a reflection of life. And what is our life? It is filled with navarasas. Bharata, in his treatise Natya Shastra, which was documented 2000 years ago, and it is the first documentation in the world of any performing arts. And it is a complete documentation of the theatrical arts that prevailed in the Indian subcontinent earlier than 2000 years. So Natya Shastra gives us a compilation of technique and rules and prevailing norms of theatrical arts, music, dance, and instrumental music. Vocal music, instrumental music, as well as dance. And in that, Bharata says that a kala or an art has to be able to uh, express the 9 sentiments or navarasas. Actually, in Natya Shastra, Bharata talks just about the 8 rasas. The original concept is Ashtarasa. Shrungara Hasya Karuna, Raudra Veera Bhayanaka, Bibhatsa Adbhuta. And then later on, by the later scholars, a 9th sentiment was added to it, which was Shanta. So, Shrungar, as in Eros, Hasya, laughter, Karuna, pathos, Raudra, anger, Veera, heroicism, Bhayanaka, fear, Bibhatsa, odious or disgusting, and Adbhuta, wonder, and Shanta, peace. So if you look at any area of our life, any realm of our life, you'll see that one of these 9 sentiments are going on in our mind. And an art form which can arrest these sentiments to its best ability and is able to project them to the audience is a classical art. Now, this expression can be concrete or abstract, depending on the art form. For example, if I am performing a beautiful Shrungara based piece between Radha and Krishna, or Ram and Sita, or Shiva and Parvati, the audience will at an instant relate to the emotions between a hero and a heroine, or a husband and a wife, and relate to it on some level. But if a rag with same sentiment is being played on sitar, let's imagine Des rag being played on sitar, which has this beautiful romantic sense or emotion attached to it. It might be hard for some people to put a finger on it and say that this is romantic. But they could probably hover around it by saying that, oh, I felt nice, or I thought something ignited within me, or, I felt nice, light, and fresh. There could be different ways of expressing the same feeling. And that's what I call concrete versus abstract. But all Abhijaat Kalas, now you can take examples from literature, from poetry, from sculpture even. Like some sculptures are so arresting. Some sculptures, we say that, oh, it just felt like that person has ran and frozen into that pose. So there is so much speed and dynamism and liveliness in that sculpture. So we relate to that model, to to what the sculpture is trying to say to us, and that is also an expression of one of the rasas. And that is how Abhijaat Kala will be able to relate more to the audience and also make the audience contemplate. Because it's just not like watch a movie, go back home, or watch a dance performance, go back home. No, we think about it. We relate it to our own selves. We relate it to the experiences on a personal level and learn from them, agree with them, or disagree with them. That's a different story. But this is how Abhijat Kalas have a very thick bond with our own life.
Fantastic start, Shambhavi. And so essentially, you did make a difference between Abhijaat Kala and the other forms of Kala, like the Loka Kala and the other forms of colors. But you said that the different classical art forms are on the same, they are at par with Abhijaat Kala, meaning the Western and the Eastern are more or less the same. Now,
Yes.
with this as the background, I pose to you the next question. So then, is there really a difference in the highest purpose of learning of Abhijat Kala versus a classical art form, if there is?
Oh, yes, definitely. There is, because I have been in the field of teaching for so long, and I know for a fact that everybody starts learning arts as a hobby, and very few of them, maybe like one in 500, maybe, or one in 300, actually get to a level where they think that this could be their way of earning livelihood. Or Jivan Marga is a beautiful word that I love to use, like the sole pursuit of life. But and that's why I think that gives us that gives me as an individual a great chance to look at how art reaches different individuals in different ways. you know like if I had everyone around me who wants to be a professional dancer, it would have been extremely monochromatic. But I have different people around me who connect to dance. Now I'm going to give more examples from dance because I am a dancer, but these examples will relate with equal intensity to music, literature, everything around us. So, what I was about to say was, it's wonderful how the pursuit of art starts with very simple goals, like, like getting a good exercise, or something where our mind gets engaged and it kind of gets us off the worries of our mundane life. you know so that sense of release through the pursuit of art, that's a very common purpose with which a lay person starts learning arts. Some of them are very inclined towards it from the beginning, and that makes them reach out to teachers, or like uh, seek out for some channels of learning. Other common purposes behind learning classical arts are connecting to the culture, because, as I said, it comes with a very strong lineage of culture. And so, if you start learning an art form, it's just not like you are trying to tap your feet in rhythm, or you're trying to pluck the strings in rhythm. It's not like that. Or you are learning the notes of a raga. You are actually getting access to thousands of years of parampara, of culture and heritage through that particular activity that you're doing. And a lot of people, especially in the Western world, lot of Indians start pursuit of art with this intention in their mind. Now, a few, well, I have noted down a few things, because if I start talking off the top of my head, I might miss out a few things, and I want to cover everything possible. So the next purpose that I have found in art practitioners is its meditative quality. And classical arts will top the list. I mean, I think they will match the intensity of an actual meditation session if we talk about it. And I'm also going to give you an example of that later. Then learning arts is a great way to increase your focus, your concentration, because you are learning to do many things at a time. For example, your hands are moving at a certain pace, but your feet are moving at a different pace. And at this instant, when your hands and feet are doing particular movements, you are taking your body in a certain direction. So it's many activities put together at a time, which demands extreme focus. And that is how learning of art can definitely help us. I have already talked about exercise, and a lot of women, especially in their mid 30s or mid 40s or even further want to join dance as a good form of exercise, because it's not just exercise, going to a gym and working out, it's also recreation, and it's also it's creative in its own way. And then from practicing art, the release of happy hormones is the hottest thing around. Like everybody talks about it, and us artists, we realize it every now and then. So much so that in the time, for the time for which I'm at the studio or I'm practicing, or even at home, I'm listening to music or whatever it is, it just takes you away from all the mundaneness of life. You get transported to a beautiful world where it's like Nandanvan. There are no worries, there are no bills to pay, there are no deadlines to match, and everything is so hunky dory. And art has that ability to transport us from the mundane to the surreal. And I think that ability, that those endorphins and those happy hormones that it releases in the body, uh, they are the hot topic nowadays. I mean, it has always been there, but it's talked about so much nowadays. Then another thing that I have seen, especially in the Western world, is community building through pursuit of arts. Because it's hard to meet like-minded people, especially in the Western part of the world, because there are so many pulls, right? You're getting pulled in many different directions, culturally, professionally, this and that. So you want to belong to a community where you're doing something creative, something constructive. It's not just going to a community performance, eating and chatting and coming back home. You want to do much more than that, which is self-rewarding. And that's where pursuit of classical arts comes into picture. And again, the sense of achievement that it gives you. Because, for example, like early on in class, if you are getting exhausted after practicing for 15 minutes, with practice and with time, you get better and better. By the end of the first year, you start realizing that you can go on for an hour. And it is an amazing sense of achievement, you know. And I am going to talk about the space and time elements of art in some time, and give you some examples when we come to that part of discussion. But that is a great sense of achievement when we are actually able um, to mold time, to mold the space according to our own will. And I know this can be a little bit intriguing, but I'm going to take that up later in the discussion. So these are the common purposes. And now I would like to proceed to the higher purposes in classical arts. So because classical arts has always been looked at as the shortest way of reaching God. you know and our philosophy has always talked about classical arts like that. Even Plato, the philosopher Plato, Western philosopher, he mentioned in one of his treatises that if you want to have a harmonious society, teach them an art form, because art will bring harmony in the society. That's what he stated. The singular purpose of art in our philosophy, Indic philosophy, has always been Swantah Sukhaya. You know, art is for our own satisfaction, for our self expression and fulfillment. So it has to please us first. Even for a professional artist, a performer, what they are seeking is to please themselves first. Because if they are not pleased, if they are unhappy, they cannot please the audience in turn. It's the happiness that gets transcended from within them to the audience, and that is how it all works. I just mentioned the 9 rasas some time ago. And as a dancer, my quest is also to understand the universality of emotions and how different people coming from different parts of the world, people coming from different religions, different cultural beliefs, they are all tied together to be a singular human race. to react and to succumb to the 9 emotions. So this bridge that the Navarasa theory builds between cultures and ethnicities, it really it makes me wonder. And then I already mentioned the elements of space and time, and that was that's something that I would like to touch upon in a little while. Also, I think what art has done to me is it has helped me understand myself better. It has made me think about myself, and it has made me um, it has made me a better person, in simple words. So that is what I can think of when I think of what art offers to people, what has it offered me, and what can be its purpose in society.
That's really wide, and it's a very what should I say, all spreading kind of effect that learning a color can have on your own personality, character, as well as sweep. So I believe so. This is the real differentiating factor between an Eastern or an Occidental Abhijaat color vis-a-vis a Western classical art form. Although the commonality, what you said, is that even Western classical artists, they also intend firstly to please themselves. They make sure that unless and until they feel that immersion, they cannot really reach out to anybody, and this we have seen in so many Western artists. So that is the, but there is something beyond also as well, and you'll touch upon it later, I'm sure, like the space and time forms that you are saying. Those are the higher things, although I mean the Western scientists talk about it, but how much of this the Western artists talk, I do not know. You may want to expound on that later. Moving forward,
Like to
yeah, please.
step in. I would just like to step in and clarify this. So, Western arts do not. I want to phrase it in the right way.
Yeah, please.
Western arts are more abstract by nature,
Nature.
you know, and it also lies how a society evolves, because we know that as the members of Indian subcontinent, we are very expressive by nature. We
Nature.
use our hands and body a lot while speaking. Our faces are more expressive. Even like
Right.
common people express a lot with words, with faces, with hand gestures, as compared to the Westerners. And I think somewhere the privilege of expression, the way it is used in Eastern societies versus Western, it's different, and that has reflected in the arts
Art forms.
also. So I
Right.
think Western arts, although like we see operas, we see ballets, right? They are telling a story in their own way, but it's
Yes.
probably not as expressive as our dance dramas or our dance performances. So there's a distinction between them, but I'm pretty sure that the Swanta Sukhaya element and the transcendence of emotions from the artist to the audience is the same in both cases.
Also, I believe the climatic conditions also make a lot of difference. The climatic conditions make a lot of difference because we belong to the tropical. Our overall expanse of movement is going to be, times more than what they have because of cold weather, because the arts emerged from Europe mostly and Russia,
Yeah.
both extremely cold regions. So the overall scope of movement was also less. So
Yes.
overall, I mean, they will sit on a piano and then try to expand from that single space as much as they wanted, kind of a thing. More, I mean, yeah. So let us move on from there, and I wanted to your thoughts on what we think classically, I mean, or as generalists, that take any Vedic Vidya, or like Kala is also, I mean, Vidya and Kala, you cannot really separate them. So when a student begins on this journey, which is a very, very long journey, typically we feel that he experiences three stages or three phases. The first I would like to call as investment, or sadhana, or abhyas. That is the first. The second, I feel that after some good deal of this thing has been done, some strength has been gained, then that student moves on to the stage of practice, or prastuti, that is actually acting out what the vidya was teaching him or her. And then after doing that, both these things for a long time, then the student proceeds to, after mastery of these, he attempts to see whether there is some kind of an inspiration, or we can say creation, or in our languages we can call pradnya or upaj or prerana, and whether he or she, like you mentioned in your introduction, finally the final test of any vidya abhyasak or sadhak is whether he or she can find his or her own voice. That is the ultimate test, whether you have digested the whole thing and whether you are able to express it in your own voice. By voice I mean not just this words voice, every which way, your actions really speaking. So truly, are there just three dimensions to this journey or more? Please, all yours.
I think we can go by this. I mean, it can be, it's a bit varied. You know, like what comes first, what comes next. Everyone definitely starts with mastery over technique. That is for sure. Because in any art form, there are a few aspects uh, into play. First is physical, the other is mental. And all classical arts are known to have a boundary. What is that boundary? It is a boundary that has been created. We can just, in simple words, we call it a rule book, right? It's just a set of rules by which the art form has to go. For example, tal trital, it cannot have 17 beats. It has to have 16 beats. It has to be divided into four parts of four. You cannot say that I'll do 8 and 3 and 5. You know, you cannot do that. So this cannot is not a restriction. It is a boundary. It is a compound, you know, and within that compound, the arts give you abundant freedom. For example, Rag Bhupali, sa re ga pa dha sa, sa dha pa ga re sa. Now you cannot apply a ni in Rag Bhupali. Okay, so you have to avoid using nishad and madhyam and elaborate the rag. That doesn't mean that you are restricted. It means that within that boundary of rag bhoop, the compound of rag bhoop, you have to elaborate. Okay, so Indian classical arts or even ballet for that matter, you cannot jump anyhow. You have to jump as per technique. You have to move as per technique. So everything is technique based in classical arts, and mastering the technique takes, I would say, a good 12 years, you know, because it's so profound and it's very complex. It's not complicated, but it's complex. There are many pieces of puzzle to be put together to master a certain movement or a certain section. So technique is the first and foremost part to be achieved in the pursuit of classical arts. And that is from where the journey starts. Now, you are not just putting your body to work, your mind is also working, right? You are absorbing what your gurus tell you, you're watching others perform, you're learning from that. The gurus also tell you what not to do, you know, like what not to do is such an important part of learning, uh, equally important as what to do, how to do, why to do. So, in this journey, the body and mind both are developing hand in hand, thereby achieving mastery over technique. But then comes the aspects that you just discussed, the upaj, because you just don't want to repeat what your guru told you or taught you. You want to add something of your own because you have lived a different life, right? Even twins don't lead the same life, right? They come out from the same womb almost at the same time, but they lead a completely different life. In the same way, you as an individual do not just want to repeat your guru's words or technique or wisdom. You want to create something of your own, and that is where upaj comes in picture. And that is also about the flow of life. As I said earlier, art is always a reflection of life. And if society around you is changing, if your life experiences are evolving, it will reflect in your art. And it's not a very shallow expression of classical performances being 3 hours long 50 years ago and just 10 minutes long in 2025. It's not that shallow. It's much more, much profound beyond that. It's all about what's my life's demands today. How much peace of mind do I have today? What's going on around me? If there is wars going on around me, well, it has to reflect in my art. Unrest around me has to reflect in my art. And all this comes into play through upaj or improvisations. And sometimes those improvisations not um, are not concrete. They are very abstract. Because if your mind is disturbed, it will show through your abstract art as well. So that is about upaj. But then the last part, sadhana, attracts me the most. you know and what is sadhana? The sadhana again is that way which connects me to something superior, which connects me to that greatest being, which I call God. Many people will have different names for it. But sadhana is that path on which I forget um, about the humanly achievements, uh, common pursuits, and I'm trying to transcend myself to a space and time where everything is meditative. I am trying to forget myself. I'm trying to forget things around me, and I'm just trying to become one with that greater self. But what is my medium? My medium is my art. And that is how practicing art, performing art, self expression through art, and meditation through art, these are all segments that an artist, it's like various links that make an artist who they are. you know and this percentage may vary from artist to artist depending on their own inclination, depending on their own priorities, but every artist will have experienced all these facets of pursuit of art.
Great, fantastic. And do find a lot of this commonality because in our talks and discussions every Saturday, these are the things that we are generally kind of discussing. And the way we do it is we open up the floor to each of us to discuss their life experiences through which we try to draw the generality. And like you described in the beginning, that each of us is an independent universe. So that is why every Saturday is such an interesting part, because we get to see such tremendous expressions and varieties from each person, but then there is this commonality. Now we are going from that generality to a specialist like you, who has done it in a single knowledge form. Art, knowledge, they are one and the same. So now we are trying to draw it out from such a specialist like you. So I think I wanted to ask you whether you could take us through some of the details of the three stages of sadhana, prastuti, and upaj. But there is not much real need for it, because you just said many things about it. But if you want to say anything more about it, I can, you may. Otherwise, we can proceed. It's up to you.
Um, at this point, I would just like to, it's not directly connected with sadhana and prastuti, but I would just like to talk about a beautiful ability that art has. All our lives are governed by space and time. The space around us, the space in our head, the space in our body, and the actual space, right, which encircles the earth as such. So these are different manifestations of space. And the time, which controls our being in a way, right? The clock is always ticking. The time is moving on in a linear way. and it is unending. So this is how we normally look at space and time from our common perspective. But the artistic perspective of looking at space and time is very magical, and I'm using this word magical with a lot of contemplation. Because in art, the space and time are an artist's prerogative. The artist has an ability to mold space and time as per their will. And I think that is the biggest magic in the hands of an artist. A very, again, a very, what should I say, day to day example for an artist will be how they practice for hours together. And again, this is taking us towards the discussion on sadhana. So I practice for a couple of hours in the morning, and I can only remember a few minutes from those 2 hours. And that is how the art has an ability to arrest time. Because time has passed. I started at 10 a.m. and I ended at noon. But do I remember what happened at 10:30, 10:45, 11? No, I don't. A lot of times this happens even on stage. On stage, if I'm giving let's say I'm presenting 4 pieces back to back, and one of those pieces is the um, most engaging for me, where I get invested the most as an artist, then I go back and I try to think about those 15 minutes. I remember I entered on stage, but I don't remember many segments from the performance. I just don't remember what happened. And on the other hand, I remember distinctly that when I was performing this line, there was a kid screaming in the audience, or somebody's phone buzzed, or something like that. So I'll remember some parts of it, but some parts of it will be a complete blur, a complete washout. I will not remember what happened in that time period. And this is what I call time getting arrested, you know. And on the other hand, space. So when I have a good 40 by 30 feet long stage at my disposal, I'm doing my movements and I feel like I'm the queen of that space. I'm touching every part of that space. My hands are making small molecules around me become alive and dance with me. And then there is a house concert where I'm bringing all that magic into a short space of 10 by 10. And I still feel magical. People who are watching me still get involved in my performance in the same way. And I still feel that I'm queen of that space. And how lovely is that? So, uh, space, how much ever big, how much ever small, I am able to stretch it or constrict it or shrink it as per my will. And that's what I call the magic in dance. And now it's giving me goosebumps. And I think that is what sadhana does to an artist, or has the ability to do to an artist. But I thought that I am an artist, so rather than just speaking through the words, I'll give you a small glimpse into the utilization of space and time. And it's going to be very short, very short. So maybe
Please,
30 seconds or something like that.
please, please.
So first, you see the space behind me, and I'm going to just use that space um, spontaneously. Hmm? But that will create many different abstract designs in front of you, and each one of you will be able to relate to that design in your own personal way, in your own individual way, depending on your own sensitivity, depending on your own emotions which are going on inside you. So I'll first try to do that, and then I'll explain the next part.
That was fantastic.
Thank you.
What-
It was a very spontaneous kind of movement sequence that I tried to create. And thank you so much. Thank you for the hearts. Um, so the next effort is going to be to give you an example of how time gets stretched or constricted in various ways. Hmm? And for that, I'm using the medium of my feet. So footwork. So I'm going to constantly play a rhythm, but on which I'm going to try to mold the rhythm in different ways. Hmm? And through the foot tapping that happens sometimes continuously, sometimes distorted, sometimes changing speeds, you'll get a sense of how time speaks differently to us, although it is actually going on at a steady pace. Okay, so that's my effort.
again, fantastic. You
Thank you.
took control, you took command over time in your own way. Phenomenal. Everybody loved it. It's just that I'm voicing. Everybody did it in their own way. You just
Thank
threw
you.
everybody into a different time space causality, as we call it, and you are the master of it for the entire period of time, as much as you had commanded. So
Thank you so much. So, I mean, the point that I wanted to make was, although one is not able to understand the technicalities or the shastra in it, like what are the 16 beats, why was this music playing in the background repetitively, and those technicalities, even if you leave them aside completely, you know that there was a lot of a range of rhythm that was being displayed. The rhythm was constantly changing. And you also notice that the same rhythm going on at the same interval was being treated differently section to section. So that was my effort actually.
absolutely, and so fantastic that as a person, as a Vidya Sadhak, basically actually goes to that stage of mastery of performance, meaning it's not just performing for somebody, it's for self performance, where you're actually gaining mastery over the generic time, the generic space, and the generic causality. You're able to. You talked about space and time, but I can also extend that to causality. You can create any rus you want.
Yes, that's
Depending on by varying, let's say you're playing on a pattern of 16-bit cycle right now, but by doing into different jatis, you can create as many different rasas as you want. So, this is the effect of that a sadhak holds on this time space causality. Fantastic. We can only just salute you for that. And so you gave us answers to many questions through Anubhav. So I would like to now move to the next level of question, if I may say so. That we looked at Sadhana, we looked at Prastuti, we looked at Upaj or Prerana. You just showed us all of these three. Now I'm going to ask you about the question of realization or Anubhav of Abhijaat Kala. Is there such a thing? And if there is, then can you talk to us a little bit of what it means by realization or Anubhav of a Kala or Vidya?
That's a very deep question, and thank you for asking it, because I have seen many different artists reacting to art in different ways, and I think their reactions are based on their experience, right? Or based on what they make of their own art. And that's why this question, Anant, uh, was one of the questions on which I had to spend a lot of time asking myself questions, that what is my experience from my own art. And my answer is that, and again, I'm going to say this from my own personal perspective, because it can be very, it's the answers will vary from artist to artist. So I think art has made me very humble as a person. Pursuit of art is a very humbling experience, and that is the first anubhav that I want to share with you all. And again, I want to say that art is like a two-sided sword, dudhari talwar. It can make you arrogant or it can make you humble. And the reason I just uh, I just showed it to you, if you think that you have an ability to mold space and time the way you want, it can make you an asur in no time. You can become an asur, rakshas, if you start thinking that you have so much capacity. But then it goes back to your sanskar, what your family has taught you, what your gurus have taught you. And then you realize that it's so humbling to have that ability to play with space and time for that small instance, for that small amount of time, period of time. And every time I perform on stage, the reactions that I get from the audience, it all makes me so humble. And I'm not saying it just for the sake of this discussion. But honestly, every time I return from a performance or even return from teaching a class, I'm more and more humbled uh, by the ability that this universe has bestowed upon me to make others' life better, to to make an impact on the lives of my students or my audience. And that also gives me the anubhav, the experience of the responsibility that comes along with it. That my art is not just a, what should I say? Although, see, I'm at a loss of words because I'm thinking so much inside my head. So I have that responsibility on me to shape people around me or society around me through my art. And it's mainly through my own experiences, right? Because what my art will project is my own experiences after all. And that's why I think being humble is the best thing that art has done to me, is what I think. That is my biggest takeaway. And as we say that, there's a saying like the wisest man is the one who knows nothing, right? Is that he knows that he knows nothing. So in the same way, art is such a vast ocean, and our forefathers have contributed so much to it that even if you cross a mile, you see thousands of miles in front of you. You think you reach somewhere only to find out that that destination is a beginning of another pursuit, another journey. And I think that is the most wonderful realization that art has given me. The moment you think in your head that you have achieved something, the other part of your brain reminds you that there is so much more to achieve. And whatever you've achieved is literally nothing, completely meaningless in this whole, cosmic play, if I may. Of course, it's a beautiful journey, I should say. And my art has also taught me to live in the moment and enjoy every milestone in the journey rather than just waiting for the destination to arrive uh, to be enjoyed. So my every riyaz, my every avartan, my every class that I teach, I happen to enjoy it to the most. Of course, I happen to learn from it. I happen to point out, to make a note of my mistakes and make sure that I learn from them. But as a bottom line, what it gives me is abundant joy. And that's how I can relate back to the age old saying, Kam latiya sakala. What brings you joy is kala.
Fantastic. You want to say more on it?
Um, that's all.
Great, fantastic. And so, yeah, I mean, like this is the hardest experience that a human being can hope to get in any journey. That is, find out whether how to hold his head high, but not so high that he cannot see anything beneath. So I guess you gave the description of this and you gave us the anubhav of that. So there is no point in getting verbose answers from you on that. Um, so next question to you would be, once a kala sadhak or a vidya sadhak gets to this stage after several decades of hard work in navigation, as we call it, where he gets this anubhav of shunyata, of nyunata, not nyunaganda, but nyunata. After that, can the sadhak say that I'm not no more interested now in prastuti, but the kala continues to live in such a sadhak? Is this possible? Do you see this?
Well, I have heard of such examples from the past where great gurus decided not to perform after a certain point, or some sadhus or sadhaks, as we can say, who performed only in the temples for the god and never performed for people. And if we look back, actually, Mirabai was one such artist, you know. Like she sang only for Krishna and not for people around us. She sang all her life, but it was only for her beloved Krishna. But I think it won't be unreal if I say that in today's age, I haven't seen many such artists. Because I think post independence, all our classical art forms have evolved to be performance arts. Earlier they could be practiced in temple courtyards or the living rooms of rich people, or in even in like just some chamber in the house. But post independence things have changed, and they are more they are nurtured as performance art. So I think um, even in my entire journey of training, I don't encounter even a single phase where I was thinking that I don't want to perform. I just want to, perform for audience. I just perform for myself. Although every Riyadh session that I do, right, that is a performance for myself only, without audience. But I'll be true and honest in saying that even when I'm performing, even when I'm doing my own Riyaz, there is that factor of performing for the audience. It is definitely present there, and I'll be honest in accepting it.
Thank you so much for being honest, because that is the hardest quality a person can have. A person who has achieved so much to have is to be honest and be humble one at the same time, because no one can be absolutely perfect. But it is important that people talk about these things. People mostly talk only about their niceties, but they generally don't talk about the things that they have yet to improve on. And coming from a person like you, it's an education for all of us, all the listeners here, that one has to go on learning, one has to go on improving. So essentially, you already talked about the next question I had in mind, basically, what happens to the perspective of life of a Kala Sadhak as he or she advances up to the Anubhava, meaning what you said. I think you already told us that your whole perspective becomes one of beauty, one of harmony, one of peace, one of variety. And you want to live that joy and share the joy with others. These are my words, but please, you give us your words.
No, this is spot on, I think, and we've already discussed it to some extent. I think that's enough because, again, words won't do justice to what I
Correct,
have
correct.
experienced, and it is for it to each their own. Like art is so. It's like sometimes I feel classical arts are like that. The story of the elephant and four blind men. So it's about your own exposure, honestly, and that is what you'll derive from that.
Correct. So, Shambhavi, I'm coming to the last question in this series right now, because I think we are coming to the more or less the close. I mean, we passed that mark
Yeah.
as well, but it was fantastic. But the last question is something which is like more generic in nature. So I ask you, would you like to share something with us that may enrich our perspective, especially about modern living and Bharatiya identity? Because you have moved across many parts of the world. You are now settled in Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. You have an international school of Kathak. Plus, you have moved around so many, civilizational circles. So if you can address this thing, whether there is really a need that there has to be an expression of Bharatiya identity in modern living, please.
Um, this is off the top of my head. I haven't thought about it earlier. But the first thing that comes to my mind is how us Indians take our heritage for granted. And that is the saddest thing that I have realized only after I started, only after I saw how non Indians prepare to come to attend a concert, or a performance. So in India, I have heard this very commonly, especially from men, that ते डान्स वगैरे ना ते आम्हाला काही कळत नाही आम्हाला काही त्यातले मी आपलं हिला कंपनी द्यायला म्हणून तुमच्या प्रोग्रामला आलोय that kind of a reaction that men are so oblivious to this beautiful area of art, and they don't think that it is something that can be understood, or that can be understood through information. But as against and not just for men, but also, like, generally speaking, for Indians, we take our arts for granted, and we don't invest in understanding the arts more. On the other hand, I have performed in the US extremely extensively. Manisha Tai and I just went to New Zealand a few months ago to perform. And there, most of the members of the audience were watching any Indian classical dance form for the first time. Then I've performed in Europe, Australia, Middle East. So everywhere I have realized that non-Indian members of the audience will make sure to look up the art form, look up the artist online before they show up for the performance. So they make an effort to orient themselves a little before they get that experience. And I have found this completely lacking in Indian diaspora. Why? I don't know that, and I am not the right person to comment on that. But this is my observation, and it disappoints me to a great extent. So this is one. What was the other thing that I wanted to say? This is by the way very close to my heart. So I really feel it from inside that this needs to change. But other than that, in the Western part of the world, now this is a funny contrast that I have realized. I have been living in the US for last more than 12 years now. And I left India around 2011 or 2012. And if I look at a few years before that, I hardly got a chance to perform a full length solo, meaning an hour long solo or even longer than that. And then when I came to the US, I got every chance to perform for as long as I wanted because people were thirsty for the art. People wanted to nurture our age old tradition, they wanted to nurture the performance routine from the past, and that's why they offered longer time slots to the artists, not cramming 20 artists in one evening and giving them 10 minutes each. So that was a pleasant surprise with which this country welcomed me. And it used to give me so much joy performing, at a lengthy, an extensive solo for my audience. And the only thing behind it was that I'm giving them a much fuller experience by, performing for a longer duration. So that was another thing that, funnily enough, it just struck to me. Generally speaking, Western world has been very curious about different cultures and heritages across the globe. And I think somewhere we also need to orient or encourage ourselves to feel the same amount of curiosity for other cultures. I know that our culture, our civilization is one of the most advanced in the world, and we really don't need to. We don't even have space to to welcome anything more because it's so full with our own things. But I think that is one effort that I always think Westerners are very good at. They are always very curious, very welcoming about anything new that they see, and generally very receptive in nature. And that I think has encouraged me to a great extent to perform for non-Indian audiences. And thirdly, through my abhinay or storytelling pieces, because Indian classical arts is greatly based on Indian mythological characters. So in the recent years, I tried to derive my, I tried to take my storytelling away from mythology and make it more relatable in current times. And that is what is my area of research, if I may. How we can portray more of human emotions through storytelling rather than the stories of great heroes like Ram and Krishna. Because that has its place in the repertoire, but going forward and connecting more to the modern living and modern society, how it can find its place in the classical arts repertoire. That is my quest.
Fantastic. So, actually, Shambhavi, we have actually come to the end of this session, and we had this Q&A slot. There was this person I would just want to mention because she had asked all the way from Sussex, UK. I think her name is Kriti Vaidya, and she asks what is the relation between, what is the relation between a spiritual journey to Kathak? And I think throughout this talk, we have talked a lot about it. So by now, I'm sure she got her answer. So I'm not going to stress you on that. So more than that, we don't have any direct questions from audience. But I would like to now just end this session with a kind of to exhort you to tell us whether this experiment that we are doing on this QAW forum of inviting specialists, what I say, the Vedic Vidya specialists like you, to come forward and express the generic nature of sadhana siddhi and this kind of a thing. Is this something that people like, not people, persona like you are would appreciate? I mean, since this is the first experience we have an opportunity of directly asking you, is this something that um, sadhaks like you would appreciate? Are you looking forward to this kind of a thing?
Oh, I think I definitely appreciate it because I am the speaker. I would like to hear from the listeners if they had any takeaway from it, because the speaker will always be happy. I'm sharing my own experiences. It takes me in a happy place. It's about you, and I'm really curious to know what are your takeaways, and maybe you can kind of gather it and let me know the feedback on this session.
We can do that offline, but I'm giving some of the people here, our members, to kind of directly give you, right while you are live here, say a few words to you. So like QAW members, please feel free to ask somebody whatever, or just express to us. So Hiren, yeah, please go.
Shambhavi, first of all, thank you once again for coming here and addressing, the session of the last 90 minutes. It was beautiful. Uh, just not your gracious presence and your art form, but also in the most simplistic words, your insight into art, life, and spirituality was really, really helpful. So, thank you very much. This is as Anand has started bringing in speakers. I actually came in. I have heard of you from Meenal Tai, and I've seen your website a couple of times, but I had not spent a lot of time. And I'm one of those people who loves art, who loves music and theater and movies, but I have not spent a lot of time understanding classical art and just getting that simplistic understanding of different types of art was beautiful. So I don't have any questions because you give such a deep, holistic understanding of so many facets of life through your experience that it was beautiful. So, Fakta, thank you, Manai.
Thank you so much. Really nice to hear this.
Yeah, Nivedita, please go.
Uh, yeah. Hi, Shambhavi Kaku and Shambhavi Tai. It was great session, and we know you. I mean, I know you. I know your performances. We have seen you, but the last point which you said, that Indians being non-receptive or not non-prepared when they attend such performances, and probably Westerners are more I mean, they're better prepared for such performances. Maybe is it because we staying in India are being bombarded with so much information, not only information, lot of programs. I mean, everyone is doing something. So my question is, as a parent of an 11-year-old child, how do I, sensitize him, you know, being receptive to such art forms so that he doesn't get bored, probably? Because I'll tell you the real problem. The new education policy is being implemented here, where each and every child is going to learn an art form and a sport, which is a good thing, but that also means overexposure. That's what I feel. So, does that, being receptive about any art form will stay forever, or how
No,
to?
I think this is exactly what we needed. If I have to address this problem, my first go-to will be start exposing children to classical arts from a very young age. And I personally believe that there is nothing as overexposure to young minds.
Okay.
As much as you expose them to, they have the bandwidth to take in all the experiences, all knowledge, and then sift through it. Like if a child is not a performer, he probably will not connect to the performance part of it. but he would probably like to sit in a room, quietly learn sitar or just, his vocal alaps. So everybody has an inclination already. But exactly what the new policy is doing with kids is would have been my answer to it. Like expose kids
Okay.
to everything. At least let them know about Indic arts, about our culture, heritage, civilization, and then going forward, they can make their choice. Not necessarily that everybody has to turn into an artist, but having exposure. Just as I am an artist inside out, all my life I have been an artist, but I have a decent understanding of physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, thanks to our education system. And it
Yeah.
also has to be the other way around, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Aditya, please go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a good segue because you said physics, chemistry. So my question was about, from your experience, where does science exactly meet art?
This is a great question, and I am experiencing it day in, day out, being in Silicon Valley. 95% of my students are techies because I teach only adults. So all my students who they have day jobs in various, tech giant companies, and they practice Kathak because it's their passion. Okay. So now I'll give you a small example where science met art just the other day in my class. So we were having an improvisation class where I made small groups, and I asked every group to come up with a sequence, a series of events, okay, that they have to present through a mime. Okay, series of events. It's very simple. One of the groups presented how a roti is made. Another group presented how a plant sprouts from being a seed. Like different stages of development of a plant. This group uh, presented a model of the Rube Goldman machine. Okay. Now, Rube Goldman machine is a dominoes effect kind of a theory where various parts affect one another in sequence, and at the end of that movement sequence, there is a very small thing that happens. Okay. But what they created was Krishna stowing a throne at Radha's pot and breaking the pot. And they created an entire Rube Goldman segment between Krishna throwing the pot and Radha throwing the stone and Radha's pot getting broken. And it was so hilarious to watch it. For example, there were five dancers in that segment, and Krishna just pushed one's shoulder. Then that person leaned on another person. Then that person took a turn and then hit the other person with the hand. Then that person did something. In turn, the next person did something. And as an effect, in the end, the last person threw a stone at Radha's pot, and Radha's pot broke. It was so mind blowing how science and art can come together, and actually mythology. And it was so original. I'm going to post it on my Instagram in next couple of days. So please have a look at it. It would be much more interesting to watch rather than me narrating it through words, because this is nothing. You'll have great fun watching it.
Thank you.
I guess, guys, I mean, we have taken enough of Shambhavi's time. She has been extremely cooperative and gracious to us.
Oh,
We
hold
have
on a
even,
second. I'll just
yes,
like to add one to
please.
Aditya's question.
Ah,
So, just a few weeks ago, we had a roundtable in my studio on the future of art and AI to going together, and that is also published on my YouTube channel. So, if you're interested, have a listen, because we have just started with understanding what is AI. Then we proceeded to how AI can affect arts, and then we were able to um, come up with various fields, various aspects of art, teaching and learning, in which actually AI can come in very handy and do a great job for us. So, especially being in the Silicon Valley, I'm not averse to science. I'm not averse to technology. In fact, it has really given me a very new perspective of looking at my own art.
Thank you.
so, Great. Yes. Vaidehi, please. Last question, I
I'm
guess.
so sorry. This is the last question, and I have to find quiet space before I can ask. Thank you so much. This was extremely enriching and inspiring. From what little I know about Kathak, the sound of Ghungru is to be made only when necessary. And when Shambhavi Tai got up to give us her performance, my thought was, oh my God, she's been wearing her ghungrus this entire time. Without making a single sound of it, she had been answering questions, talking at length, and there wasn't any knowledge that there was ghungru already on her feet. So, yes, it was observed. Thank you.
Thank
Um,
you so much. Such a great observation.
my question is, you've, in pursuing your sadhana all these years, there must have been places where you felt dejected or wanted to give up. And that evolution of your thought would be different when you were 14, then in your 20s, then in your 30s, and I'm going to stop at 40s. Okay. So, um, what made you, what kept you going? When you were in that low spot, what kept you going back to your sadhana?
I think it was just the daily dose of endorphins from Riaz. that's that's the shortest answer. But I mean, and I really mean it, because I think mm, dance makes you happy, art makes you happy, and if it makes you unhappy, then it's only for introspection and action. And you know that after taking correct actions, it is in the end it's going to make you happy again. And I think I'll also give this one to my family, because they are a bunch of extremely positive individuals. And what they taught me from my childhood is never to be negative towards life, never to punish yourself, always be positive, always be hopeful, and last but not the least, work hard to achieve what you want to achieve. I think this one definitely goes to my family for raising me the way they did, and that's why I think I never thought of quitting dance. Honestly, I have thought of doing it differently. Again, I'll be honest. There were times when I was not happy with the way I was doing it, and I wanted to make a change, but I never thought of giving it up altogether.
Thank you.
Great. So, guys, I think we have to let Shambhavi go now, because it can just go on and on. But I mean, we cannot forget that. I mean, the fact that she has appeared so easily for us here, she gave us an illusion that, I mean, she will always be so easily approachable or accessible. It is not so. It is out of a tremendously tight schedule, international schedule, that she has actually picked out this time slot for us, and she appeared to be, in complete control of this time for us. But we cannot just take advantage of this again. I cannot say enough thanks to her, because you do not get to see Shambhavi performing like this just for us. I mean, I can only fold my hands, because international crowds pay top dollar. I mean, it's like a crude way of saying, but we have, for us, you to give us the anubhav of anubhav. She actually performed for us. I mean, it made me extremely emotional at that point without actually showing it. But such things don't happen so easily. We are actually graced by such presences as hers, and so we thank her a lot. So, Shambhavi, it was fantastic having you over, and I believe that such contacts with great personalities, sadhaks such as you, with the general community who is also interested in kind of achieving excellence, but through the generic marg of sadhana, would be interested in having such contact sessions on and off. And so, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. And once again, I mean, so we now close this session. And even in closure, I will still follow the Bharatiya Parampara and remember both of your gurus, Manisha Tai, who's here, and then Pandit Suresh ji. And then, due to their grace, we could see this such wonderful personality such as you today. So we'll continue with this series, and then we'll also give you offline feedback and possibly a YouTube of this, so that we'll see how we can get this over to you, and then whether you can put it on our website or install, we can talk about it. So thank you so much, Shambhavi, from all of us here at QAW and everybody attending with great patience. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you again. Bye.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.